Hey everyone, James with TFBTV. Today on TFBTV, super exciting episode. I've got the Noveske Space Invader. You guys may remember this. I gave you a little sneak preview at SHOT Show 2019. And in fact, I said this was one of the best guns of SHOT Show 2019. So does it live up to the hype? Because I've had it for the past week. I've gotten to shoot it. I actually have shot the piss out of it. So I'm going to tell you today whether the Space Invader is out of this world or just a game over. You guys like that dad joke? Today's episode, in fact, all our episodes in September and October, generously sponsored by 511. Am I pointing to the right side? Yes, 511. Really blows my mind that a super big professional company like 511 would associate with TFBTV, but they're awesome to us and they're a great company, so we really appreciate all their support. Today I'm wearing the 511 Slim Performance shirt. This is, there's a lot of dadcore, let's be honest, with 511. There's a lot of tactical stuff and a lot of what I like to call dadcore, but they also have a lot of really stylish stuff that I like to wear, and this is one of those things. By the way, they didn't ask me to pump this. I'm just doing it because I love these shirts. Anyways, enough with that. Let's start talking about this gun. The Noveske Space Invader. If you don't know Noveske, that's okay. I would assume that you're relatively new to the gun or the AR world because they are probably the premier AR-15 manufacturer. When I think of top tier AR manufacturers, I'm thinking of like Noveske, BCM, LMT. So these guys are some of the best of the best. So you can imagine at SHOT Show 2019, I was incredibly excited to see my buddy Mike Pappas, aka Honey Bun, over at the Dead Air booth, and he had one of these, and this was one of the most sought after guns. Everybody wanted footage of it, photos. Space Invader's a really clever name, notwithstanding the fact that Noveske's logo looks like it belongs on a t-shirt. From Hot Topic, they've got some of the most clever marketing out there. Space Invader, of course, you think about the video game from the 80s, right? Space Invaders. But I guess it's a play on words for like a close quarters weapon, like you're going to go in and invade someone's space, right? I'm sure for $2,550, the only space that this gun will be invading is the inside of your gun safe, or maybe your living room whenever you're live action role playing around your house with this thing, but that's okay. I'm a huge pistol caliber carbine guy, and this being Noveske's first pistol caliber carbine, thrilled. So I requested one from SilencerShop. That's the only place you can obtain one of these. They sent it along, we were off to the races. Now I have a lot to say about this gun, and of course, just like any gun I review, not all of it's good. But before we get started, let's talk about the price. This is gonna cost you 2.5 racks and a grant. $2,550. That is a lot of money for a gun that shoots 9mm. Is it worth it? Well, let me tell you about it and you decide. First, let's just start with the basic specs. This gun weighs 5.4 pounds. Somebody commented, I believe on my Instagram, to say something like, oh man, that gun's really heavy for a 9mm pistol caliber carbine. It's really not at all, especially considering it's got an 8.5-inch barrel. That's around the same size as the standard MPX SBR, which weighs 6 pounds, or the MP5, which can weigh anywhere between 6 and 7 pounds, typically about 6.5 pounds, depending on the configuration. It has a 3-position stock that I'm going to talk about a little bit more in just a second, but in this configuration with the stock collapsed all the way, of course, it's still functional. I mean, you're really going to have your face up against this thing, but 20 inches. You can extend it to the second position, I would call it, or the first position, depending on how you look at it. And all the way out, you're looking at 25 inches. This gun is almost exactly the same size, fully closed or all the way open, as the H&K MP5 or as the SIG MPX. The MP5 is about 26 inches to the 25 inches fully extended, and they're about the same fully collapsed. The MPX is basically identical. That is, the MPX SBR is basically identical in overall length in any configuration to the Space Invader. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this gun's about the same size as your collapsible stock MP5 or MPX, but it's gonna weigh anywhere between a pound to half a pound less than those guns. Of course, this gun shoots 9mm and uses 32 round magazines. So let's talk about the features, and that is going to occupy a lot of space in this video, no pun intended. That's because this thing's chock full of them, and you think, damn right, it better be for $2,550. Now, I will say this, I'm gonna give you a little sneak preview of what I thought of shooting performance. Whenever I went out and I shot this gun, I said, you know, this shoots like a nice pistol caliber carbine, but it's a blowback AR. Really, how could you justify $2,550 on this gun? And it wasn't until I got it on my workbench back here and I busted out the spec sheet and I started tearing it down and realized you may actually be getting your money's worth. So let's do the math real quick. Let's say, I mean, how much are you willing to pay for a premium pistol caliber carbine in an AR9 configuration? Let's call it $1,000, like top tier, right? $1,000. So that leaves $1,550 worth of features to make this gun really worthwhile. Does it get there? Let's try to do the math together. You have a Geissele airborne charging handle. Don't know how much those cost, but it's got Geissele attached to it. It's pretty expensive, and it's Noveske branded, which is kind of cool. One of the biggest features that, in fact, I probably should have started with is the Q-designed stock or brace, depending on how you get it. 3-position, it uses a proprietary buffer and spring system, as it has to in order to make it this small. And another thing, you have to look at all the machining that goes into the upper. This isn't just a standard AR9 upper. It has to have these channels to accommodate the stock. That allows the stock to be as compact, as far forward as possible, and as slim as possible. So that's something, I think a design cue, again, pun, gosh, not even trying to do it. That's a design aspect that tends to be overlooked, I feel like, when you're looking at this gun. You don't appreciate how much work actually goes into making this gun as compact as possible and getting the stock to work the way it should and to look very aesthetically pleasing. It's got a little button here that you depress in order to adjust the stock, and then it's got an ambi sling swivel. You've got a Magpul 60-degree safety selector on both sides of the gun, of course. Very easy, a lot better than the 90-degree standard AR-15 safety selector. You've got an ambi bolt catch. You can see the one on the right side here for you lefties, if your mom was a witch. And you've got the single ping pong release here on the left-hand side. Now, as far as magazine release, it looks like, hey, you've only got one magazine release for the righties. Well, actually, that's not true. Another one of the most awesome design aspects of the Space Invader is the fact that you have a paddle mag release. I love a good paddle mag release, a la the H&K MP5, and I was really thrilled to see Noveske integrate this. So it makes it a truly ambi magazine release, and I love a good grip and rip. Talking about the lower, this is a single piece billet lower. As you can see, the trigger guard's one component looks really good, and not only is it hard coat anodized, but it's also black Cerakoted, so it looks great, and it's gonna hold up really well to all the abuse that you're gonna throw at it on the inside of your gun safe. Beveled and flared magazine well, critical whenever you're using these little tiny magazines. It's also got a Geissele trigger. Those things aren't cheap. Again, more Geissele stuff. I weighed it consistently at about 4.5 pounds, really 4 pounds, 10 ounces almost every time I would take the trigger pull gauge to it. So the trigger's sublime without being so lightweight that you couldn't use it in self-defense or like duty use. I mean, once again, haha, $2,600 gun. Not gonna see the light of day outside of the range, but it's good to see that they took the trigger seriously and you don't have just a standard slapdick GI trigger in here that sucks. It comes with a Magpul MOEK grip, so it's very slim and it's got more of a downward angle, which is gonna make it a little bit more comfortable to hold whenever it's this close to your chest. It's got the Noveske NHR 6.3, which is 6¼ inch handguard. That's got Picatinny rail at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. And you've got 2.5 Magpul M-Lock cutouts at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. You've got the Magpul M-Bus Pro metal sights. These aren't the cheap M-Bus polymer sights. These are the Magpul M-Bus Pro, which are outstanding backup iron sights. It also comes with 2 Magpul QD sling loops in the box. As you can see, I ran mine with a Trijicon MRO using a Spur QDM 3002 quick disconnect absolute co-witness mount, which I absolutely love. The guys at Spur sent this to me, said, hey, try this out because they know I like the LaRue stuff. And I thought this was a fantastic little mount for what it's worth. Finally, one of my most favorite features, tri-lug barrel. It's not often you see this. Of course, this was standard on the H&K MP5, and a lot of the MP5 clones, it's standard on them as well. What I like about this, suppressor goes on and off with a quarter twist. You've got, of course, a stainless steel Noveske barrel with a tri-lug adapter, which is great because you see I've got an AAC with a triad, the tri-lug adapter here. Boom, quarter twist, your suppressor's on there. Pretty nice feature. Of course, you're gonna have to get an adapter, so I was using an older AAC Evolution 9 with the triad adapter. Boom, you put it on, quarter twist, it's on, held in place by spring pressure. Whenever you wanna take it off, press it towards the gun, another quarter twist, it's off again. I love the tri-lug. I think it's far superior to any threaded barrel design. And of course, with the barrel, you have Noveske's famous stainless steel barrel that's got the bead blast finish and the machine tri-lug adapter at the end of it. 8.5 inches long. Noveske is known for making some of the best barrels in the business, if not the best barrel in the business. So guys, that does it for the features. What do you think? I mean, again, if you start with that base layer of $1,000 premium AR-15, and then you add in all the features that we just discussed, is it worth the money? What do you guys think? You tell me. I mean, me personally, I'm a big MPX guy. Me and my good buddy Taryn Butler absolutely love the SIG MPX. Well, you can get street price an MPX SBR for like $1,500 to $1,700. So that leaves you almost $1,000 to buy whatever you want. And the MPX comes pretty well featured straight out of the box too. Is it worth it? You guys tell me in the comments. As far as the shooting experience goes, like I said, the trigger's excellent. It was great with this Trijicon MRO. Shooting it was fun, it was fantastic. No complaints. It's not gassy at all whenever you shoot it with a suppressor. I love shooting it. I know Ryan Ogburn, my camera guy, who's now about to make his first TFBTV debut as a reviewer. He's a huge Noveske fanboy, so he was absolutely thrilled to death. We ran hollow points through it the entire time, believe it or not. We used Federal Train and Protect. Federal, of course, is a sponsor of TFBTV, so they sent us this Train and Protect. It's a pretty cool concept. It's less than 50 cents a round, and it's 115 grain hollow point that comes screaming out at 1,200 feet per second out of a pistol. They call it Train and Protect because it's cheap enough where you can buy it and run it at the range without burning a hole in your pocket, but you can also use it in your carry gun, and you can train with the ammo that you plan to carry. So in any event, we fired probably a case, almost a case, of Federal Train and Protect through this gun, and we did have some failures. Weirdest mag reload ever. Oh! Little jammaroo. Jam, jam, jammy. So notwithstanding the fact that we absolutely enjoyed shooting this gun, recoil is minimal, of course. It's just a 9mm pistol caliber carbine, even though you feel it a little bit more than a lot of the guns that aren't straight blowback. Remember, this is a straight blowback. It's not something like the CMMG Banshee or the SIG MPX or the H&K MP5, where it uses a delayed blowback system. This is just a straight blowback gun, so you're gonna have a little bit more recoil than those other more sophisticated firearms, but it's also going to be a lot simpler in operation. So speaking of failures, let's talk about the negatives. The big one. This uses Colt pattern mags. Now, Colt pattern mags are great because you can even cut Uzi mags, and I think all you gotta do is put a little notch where the magazine release is, and you can use Uzi mags out of this thing. However, I think they're a little bit obsolete, and all of our failures were magazine related. In fact, it was even a little bit annoying to load the mags. Trying to get it, jamming some of these mags in on a closed bolt, a little bit of a pain in the ass. It's hard to get those last few rounds in there. Sometimes rounds will pop out if you don't finesse them the right way. Oh. Did you get that on camera? And they're just generally not reliable. It's just kind of weird that after all this time, people haven't come out with reliable Colt pattern 32 round 9mm magazines. Of all places, Pro Mag, garbage tier magazine manufacturer. I remember using Pro Mag polymer magazines in a Bushmaster AR9, and those worked perfectly. I don't know how they'd work in this. Maybe if you want to pick one of these up, I would suggest trying that. I've also heard good things about the Brownells magazines.
I must have extraordinarily bad luck with this thing. Can't believe that.
Look, it looks way cooler than a Glock magazine, and your bolt hold open is going to work way better because this is designed specifically for an SMG, but we had mag-related failures.
Did it jam?
Last round.
Because Colt pattern magazines and older Uzi magazines tend to be pieces of shit. As far as negatives go, you are still just shooting an AR9. Granted, it's an AR9 with a fantastic trigger and with some bells and whistles, but it's still just an AR9. Also, you can see this cheek piece here. Very short, very compact, and your nose, you guys can see that, is basically on the charging handle. That's gonna bother some people. It didn't necessarily bother me because I see that as an acceptable compromise. What happens if they make the cheek piece longer? Well, if they make the cheek piece longer, then the stock has to be longer too, and it's all the way collapsed position. So I can live with that, but I know some people are gonna complain about it. I wanted to bring it up and say, hey, it's not as bad as it sounds. So guys, that's basically it for the Space Invader. I mean, I loved it. If I were you, would I drop $2,550 on it? If I were you, no. I mean, I don't know. If you're like Bill Gates, absolutely. If you've got the money to blow, absolutely. If you're a Noveske fanboy, absolutely. If you're a pistol caliber carbine fanboy, sure, why not? I kind of am, but $2,550 is a bit of a stretch for me, even though, in my opinion, the cost is justified purely by all of the features that this gun has. And if you talk about getting reliable, functional Colt pattern 32 round 9mm magazines, you've got a gun that's pretty much perfect from a 9mm submachine gun, SBR, PCC standpoint. So I'm gonna have to give it a reserved thumbs up. You guys are just gonna have to do the calculus, do the math in your head, figure out if it's worth it to you. But I can tell you this, for 2,500 bucks, I think you're getting what you pay for. But remember that what you're paying for is a straight blowback AR9. Anyways, guys, thanks a ton as usual for watching. Thank you to our sponsors, Ventura Munitions, as well as 511 and Federal. Love them, couldn't do it without them, couldn't do it without you. If you really like the channel, of course, subscribe. That helps us tremendously. But support us on Patreon or Subscribestar, patreon.com/TFBTV. Or if you're a little bit more open-minded and you don't like Patreon's questionable policies as it relates to gun channels, go to subscribestar.com/TFBTV. Thanks again. I will see you all next week.